Hello, my name is Tanya Marie Beck, and this is for my class in interpersonal communication, addressing negative communication using the assertive message format as a team leader and promoting harmony and resolving conflicts effectively. Waiting on my computer to respond. Okay. Assertive communication. As a leader of the job staff and senior living, for this assignment, I was tasked with helping staff members deal with communication from others in the group who used a negative tone. So the scenario for this was a visibly frustrated cook makes a dismissive comment to a coworker about one of the residents, which the team leader overhears. The cook says that Mrs. G never turns in her menu on time. She keeps on dismissing the fact that she has not turned in her menu for the week. She then comes to lunch and says that I did not order that, meaning Mrs. G, and I think that Mrs. G wants to have something to complain about, even though she didn't turn in a menu. We aren't mind readers. Assertive communication. As an assertive leader's disconforming message, behavior, when I hear you say that Mrs. G never turned in her menu on time and causes issues regarding her meals. Feeling, I feel concerned. I know you don't think that she intentionally forgets to turn in her menu. Interpretation and consequences. This affects the kitchen flow and accommodates her request last minute. This might affect the way you interact with her. The intention, I intend to let the nursing director know of these issues that Mrs. G so that we can get to the bottom of the disconnect and figure out an extra help she might need to ensure we get her menu in a timely fashion. Assertive communication, being respectful, speaking with confidence, knowing they feel valued, balancing honesty and empathy, finding a middle ground between truth and empathy, conflict resolution, speaking openly about issues and being aggressive, improving team dynamics, having cooperation and trust, while building teamwork to increase harmony and productivity. Step one of this process is the behavior. When I hear you say that Mrs. G never turns her menu in on time and causes issues regarding her meals, a behavior description should be an objective describing an event without interpreting it. So basically having an understanding of what is going on, but not necessarily interpreting it, just hearing and understanding what is going on about the event. Step two, the interpretation. This affects the kitchen flow and accommodates her request at the last minute. This might affect the way you interact with her. The fact that Mrs. G fails to turn her menu timely. An interpretation statement describes the meaning you've attached to the other person's behavior. The important thing to realize about interpretations is that they are subjective. After you become aware of the difference between observable behavior and the interpretation, some of the reasons for communication difficulties become clearer. The feeling. I feel concerned. I know you don't think she intentionally forgets to turn on her menu. Reporting the behavior and sharing your interpretations are important, but feeling statements add a new dimension to a message, showing empathy towards the situation. Step four, the consequence. This affects the kitchen flow and accommodations her request last minute. A consequence statement explains what happens as a result of the situation you've described. So far, there are three types of consequences. What happens to you, the speaker, what happens to the person you're addressing, and what happens to others. In this case, it's me, the person that is the team leader. What happens to the person you're addressing, the cook, and then what happens to others being the residents. Effects of communication and misunderstanding. The intention. This might affect the way you interact with her. Intention statements are the final element of the assertive message format. They can communicate three kinds of messages: where you understand on an issue, requests of others, and description of how you plan to act in the future. Using the assertive format message is important, and these steps are not, set in stone per se. You don't have to use them directly in step-by-step process. The elements may be delivered in a mixed order. There are few points to remember. The word of the message to suit your personal style. So that means based on your own personal interpretations and understandings of what's happening, you formulate your own message format to present when you're addressing issues. When appropriate, combine two elements in a single phrase when possible. And then it's also about the time in delivering the message so that it's not misunderstood or misinterpreted or twisted, or the communication is not as clear as it should be. Although, and then you can always ask the person if they're understanding what you're referring to and making sure that the message that you're portraying is clear. And so I hope I've discussed and explained this in an appropriate form, and hope that I have included all of the steps and described them appropriately. Thank you for your time.